In this lesson, we will learn how to deform surfaces with the skin modifier. So we have our bone system in place, but how are we going to get that connected to our fueling line? Well, we can work with the skin modifier. The skin modifier is used for creature deformations when we want our characters or other types of creatures to follow a skeleton we've made. This is the modifier we'd use. So we'd want to select our fueling line and now move to the modify panel. Next, we need to search for the skin modifier. Let's go to our modifier list. We'll press the S key a few times and we will find it a lot faster that way. Here it is. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is add the bones that we would like to influence this fueling line with. So you scroll down until you find the bone section and now you can choose add. Now there are a lot of items in our scene. How can we find just those bone objects? Well, each bone has a prefix of bone. So what we can do is go to our find field and we can go ahead and type in that name. And then max will go ahead and filter out all other objects. So when we choose select, you can see that all bone objects had now been tied to our fueling line. Watch this. When we go in and start to move our IK goal, take a look. The fueling line now deforms. How neat is that? Very cool. Now we have this end cap of the fueling line to deal with. There's a reason why I didn't select both the line as well as the cap. Yes, that would create one skin modifier for both objects. However, we really need to think about this. You can see how the fueling line deforms. And it's smooth because the weighting information, or essentially how each bone influences each vertex, that information has been spread throughout the entire fueling line so we could get some very smooth results. Now for a hard surface type of object, we just want one object influencing that piece of geometry so we don't have any smooth deformations when it should be just a hard surface. So we have a few choices here. We could either skin to the end bone of the chain or to the nub, which is controlled by the end bone. Either way, it's going to follow the same way. So let's go ahead and grab our fueling line's cap. We'll go to our modifier list, we'll press the S key, and we will create another skin modifier. We'll go ahead and choose add. From there, we'll go ahead and type in bone. Let's go ahead and scroll down. And what we're doing is we're looking for the last bone in this chain. Now you might think that that bone is going to be bone 21. However, remember we did use refine to add more resolution. So that last bone here might not necessarily be the last bone of our chain. If we were to go ahead and close this out and select the nub, you can see that it's actually bone 9. Alright, so we need to be very careful when using the refine tool. So what I'll do is go ahead and select the object again, go back to add bones, and we could go ahead and type in bone. We'll go ahead and search for bone 9. Here it is. Let's make sure only that's selected, and I will choose select. Alright, great. So now only that piece of the chain is going to influence that end cap. You can go ahead and select it and start to rotate it around. You can see that the end cap will follow. Alright, great. So in this lesson we have learned how to skin to geometry. And at any point you can go in and remove your bone objects, but I'd highly recommend you do that at the default position. Otherwise you might notice that your geometry is distorted slightly when you start to add or remove bone objects from this list without being in your default position. If you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to take a look at Introduction to Character Rigging. But that's going to be it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're essentially ready to go in and start cleaning up our rig. So what we're going to go ahead and do is start to look at the entire rig and make sure it will be animator friendly.